What's going on, guys? It's your boy John the Liquidator coming back with a major story. So it looked like Forbes 30 for 30 has just snubbed Caitlin Clark in the latest issue of this article. Guys, for this one here, we got to go all the way up to Indy. Let's get it. Let's go. Now, I'll be one of the first people to tell you, I was reporting on Caitlin Clark hotter than fish grease last year, bro. I mean, she was 30 for 30. She was Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. She was the most influential woman. And I'm here to tell you, it looked like they're trying to replace Caitlin Clark with Paige Bueckers. Well, really.
The silence was deafening, but the message screamed across the sports world. Caitlin Clark, the undisputed queen of basketball, was shockingly left off Forbes' prestigious 30 under 30 list. This wasn't an oversight, it was a bombshell statement. While the biggest name in sports was snubbed, her rival Paige Bueckers found her name proudly emblazoned on that very same list. How could the athlete who shattered viewership records, captivated a nation, and single-handedly transformed women's basketball be deemed unworthy by Forbes? The implications are staggering, sending shockwaves through her fan base and igniting furious questions about Forbes' true motives. This move suggests a deliberate attempt to shift the narrative and perhaps anoint a new face. The outrage is palpable.
And I'm here to tell you, it looked like they're trying to replace Caitlin Clark with Paige Bueckers. Well, really, it ain't looking that way because she has been replaced with Paige Bueckers. Now, the Indiana Fever star Aaliyah Boston also made this list, and I'm here to tell you, Caitlin Clark, unfortunately, did not make this list, which lead me to believe that the heights and what we've been talking about these last couple weeks, at least over here on my channel, is for real. That is the Caitlin Clark hype is dying down. Now, I've been one of the first people to tell y'all this because, like I said it once and I said it again.
This astonishing exclusion directly contradicts Clark's meteoric rise. Last year, she was a Time Magazine Athlete of the Year nominee, celebrated as the most influential woman in sports. To go from unprecedented heights to complete omission within a year has ignited a firestorm of controversy. Many openly speculate this is a shocking attempt to pivot, with Forbes actively trying to replace Clark with another burgeoning star. The question isn't if this was an accident, but rather if this is a deliberate strategy to shift the spotlight, leaving fans and pundits reeling from the sheer audacity of the decision. This feels like a profound betrayal of her undeniable impact.
Here on my channel is for real. That is the Caitlin Clark hype is dying down. Now, I've been one of the first people to tell y'all this because, like I said it once and I said it again. I lost over 109 subscribers last month alone in the month of November. Anybody that is gaining subscribers, that is garnering views, 80% of the time is buying views. They're buying subscribers, guys. And me personally, to me, it's not worth it. It's not worth losing my IP address over on YouTube to where I get banned for life, because that's what's going to happen. When you bot your channel, they ban you for fake engagement.
Further deepening the sting, the Forbes list did feature other prominent WNBA athletes, including Clark's own Indiana Fever teammate, Aaliyah Boston, along with Melissa Collier, and notably Paige Bueckers. For Clark to be left out while her peers, including her teammate and a perceived rival, secured spots, feels like a direct affront. The public reaction is intensely volatile, questioning the validity of a list that would overlook such a monumental cultural and athletic figure. It sparks an immediate, visceral response from those who believe Clark's impact on the game and her star power far outweigh any other athlete considered for this honor. The decision has drawn a line in the sand.
Not worth losing my IP address over on YouTube to where I get banned for life, because that's what's going to happen. When you bot your channel, they ban you for fake engagement. They ban you and you can no longer be on YouTube. Now, there is a lot of channels that is doing this. I'm not here to point fingers, but there is a guy that got the same background as me that is doing this on 2 channels. And I'm telling you right now, I'm predicting he's not going to be a channel in 2026, bro. That's how bad botting your channel is. Now, with that being said, me personally, I'm going to weather the storm because I got faith. I believe
Some seasoned analysts, including those who followed Clark's career closely, are now openly suggesting a more unsettling truth. The unprecedented hype surrounding Caitlin Clark might actually be diminishing. This isn't just an opinion. Some point to subtle shifts in engagement trends that indicate a noticeable decline in the white-hot intensity that once surrounded her. While such a claim seems unthinkable given her recent impact, the Forbes snub provides powerful, albeit controversial, evidence for this unsettling theory. This isn't merely about a list, it's about whether the foundation of her unprecedented popularity is shifting beneath her. The very idea sends shivers down the spines of her most ardent supporters.
It's not, guys. It's just not. I just got to be honest here with you. I don't believe the hype is there. The hype is clearly gone for whatever reason. And yeah, man. So this is what the Indiana Fever posted on their X account today. And this is of Aaliyah Boston. Now, granted, Aaliyah Boston did make this list. So at least somebody from the Indiana Fever made this 30 for 30 list. Now, this right here caught my attention. When I seen this, it says 30 for 30. Congrats to Aaliyah Boston on being named 2025 Forbes 30 for 30 list. Now, this right here is the one that really...
The outrage stems from how Forbes precisely presented the WNBA athletes who did make the cut. An official post highlighted Melissa Collier, Paige Bueckers, and Aaliyah Boston as the WNBA's 3 athletes to make the Forbes 30 under 30 list. The explicit omission of Clark from this trio, despite her unparalleled impact, is seen by many as a calculated statement, an intentional oversight designed to draw attention to who isn't there. This isn't a simple mistake, it's a deliberate choice, signaling a potential shift in how influential figures are recognized. The clear messaging from Forbes has left many wondering if this was a thinly veiled attempt to diminish her undeniable presence. Their narrative is undeniable.
List. Now, how do Caitlin Clark not make this list? Is mind-blowing to me, and I don't want to sit here and tell y'all that I told y'all the hype is dying down. Now, granted, should Caitlin Clark been on this list? Hell yeah, Caitlin Clark should have been on this list. There's no question Caitlin Clark should have been on this list. She should have been on this list. To me, you could replace her with Nafisa Collier, bro. No disrespect to her. She's a hometown hero here in my home state, but she should have been there. Paige got hype, though. Paige got an algorithm. Paige got hype.
The ensuing outcry immediately pivoted to who, if anyone, should have been removed for Clark. Many argue she should have been on the list without question, easily replacing any of the 3 WNBA players named. Some pointed specifically to Melissa Collier, acknowledging her talent but questioning her overall impact compared to Clark's global phenomenon status. This isn't a slight against deserving athletes, but a profound bewilderment at the metrics or criteria Forbes used to bypass such a titan of the game. The very act of debating replacements underscores the perceived injustice, fueling indignation. It's a shocking decision that defies rational explanation.
Paige hype bigger than Caitlin Clark? No, it's not. Aaliyah Boston, I just got to be honest, she's only on this list because she's Caitlin Clark's teammate. I just got to keep it real. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to be none of that. Y'all know me. I'm going to call it spade a spade. Shout out to Ben Daniel, bro. I'm going to call it for what it is. And what it is, Aaliyah Boston is simply on this list because she's Caitlin Clark's teammate. Now, the caption is stated, Forbes 30 for 30 list is an annual list published by Forbes that highlights 30 outstanding individual athletes under that age of 30 who...
The inclusion of Paige Bueckers in particular ignited a fierce debate. While Bueckers is undoubtedly talented with a strong following, many question whether her current impact on the culture of the game or her popularity truly eclipses that of Caitlin Clark. Analysts admit Paige has significant hype and a robust social media presence, but her overall cultural footprint compared to Clark's remains a point of contention. The stark contrast between their global recognition and influence makes Forbes' decision perplexing, leaving many to wonder if their assessment was based on something other than sheer impact and broad appeal. It's a direct challenge to basketball stardom's hierarchy.
Be honest here. You know, I lost 100 subscribers. The data shows me that the hype is it. My data. My data show, that's a video in itself. Like I said, if anybody's channel's growing 200, 300 subscribers today, they're buying subs, and they will not be in this genre possibly in 2026. Telling you what I know. YouTube do not play the fake engagement game. They're doing it not on this WNBA channel, but on the football channel as well. And they will come after you, and they will block your IP address, man. I'm not doing it. I don't have enough balls to do that. And like always, until next time, shake the haters off. I'm out of here, bro. Pete.
Then there's Aaliyah Boston, Clark's teammate on the Indiana Fever. While Boston is a stellar player, consistently performing at an elite level and earning accolades, some controversially suggest her inclusion might be indirectly tied to her association with Caitlin Clark. The argument posits that Boston's elevated profile and visibility as Clark's teammate played an unforeseen role in her selection, rather than solely her individual impact, despite impressive achievements. This theory, though speculative, further complicates the narrative, suggesting that even those associated with Clark are benefiting from her shadow, while she herself is cast aside. It paints a complex picture of influence. Forbes explicitly defines its 30 under 30 list as highlighting 30 outstanding individual athletes under the age of 30 who are making significant impact and breaking barriers. Held against this definition, Clark's omission is bewildering. Her impact on viewership, attendance, and cultural conversation has been revolutionary, arguably breaking more barriers and having greater impact than almost any athlete of her generation. Critics are asking how Forbes could reconcile Clark's undeniable, record-smashing influence with their own stated criteria. The discrepancy is glaring, making the snub feel less like an accident and more like an intentional statement, challenging their standards. It forces a critical reevaluation of their motives. The fan reaction online has been predictably furious, with many social media users accusing Forbes of fostering ring culture in basketball, suggesting the list prioritized perceived team success or traditional metrics over true cultural impact. Comments flooded in, lamenting basketball is not a popularity contest, yet asserting Clark's unparalleled popularity should have made her an automatic shoo-in. This uproar underscores the deep connection fans feel to Clark, viewing her snub as a personal slight against their collective experience of witnessing a generational talent. The perceived injustice has galvanized supporters, transforming the controversy into a wider conversation about authenticity versus manufactured accolades. It's a battle for the soul of basketball recognition. Adding another layer to the drama, one insider confidently predicted that despite Clark not making headlines on the Forbes list, her omission would become the biggest story. This prophecy is rapidly unfolding as numerous sports channels and commentators scramble to cover the controversy, confirming the prediction everyone would copy the content and discuss the snub. This highlights the media ecosystem's reliance on compelling narratives, even negative ones, further amplifying the perceived slight against Clark. The irony isn't lost. Her absence from the list has generated more vets than her inclusion, proving her undeniable gravitational pull. Her power is evident even in rejection. The Indiana Fever's official social media accounts only added to the confusion. They celebrated Aaliyah Boston joining the Fever team, mentioning her inclusion on the 30 under 30 list, but conspicuously omitted any direct mention of Clark, almost as if she were never part of their triumph. This team-level silence surrounding their biggest star's snub is perplexing, prompting speculation about internal dynamics, or a cautious avoidance of controversy. The selective celebration felt like rubbing salt in a fresh wound for Clark's fans, who expected acknowledgement of her undeniable contributions to the team and league's popularity. The silence from her own team speaks volumes, fueling further unease. It's crucial to acknowledge Aaliyah Boston's impressive credentials. The transcript highlights her strong 2024 season, averaging 15 points, making her third consecutive All-Star appearance, and earning all WNBA and all defensive second team honors. These achievements are undeniably significant. However, the prevailing sentiment is that despite her individual brilliance, her visibility and inclusion on such a high-profile list, in the context of Clark's absence, cannot be entirely disconnected from the unprecedented attention Clark brought to the Fever and the WNBA. It's a complex interplay where individual merit meets the amplified spotlight of a generational talent. Boston shines, but Clark's shadow looms. For many, Forbes' decision isn't merely an error, it's interpreted as a deliberate, aggressive statement, almost a strong message of rejection to Caitlin Clark from the establishment. Replacing her, not just with a rival, but also with her own teammate, is seen as a calculated move to assert control over the narrative and dictate who is the face of women's basketball. This interpretation suggests a deeper, manipulative game at play, where Forbes actively tries to diminish Clark's influence and elevate others, regardless of her actual impact. It's a power play designed to send a clear, controversial message about their perceived authority in shaping public perception. The gauntlet has been thrown down. While acknowledging Paige Bueckers' talent and character, even her admirers agree that when it comes to popularity, when it comes to impact of the game, especially the culture, she's not touching Caitlin, not even with a 12-foot pole. This candid assessment underscores the perceived disconnect between Forbes' decision and reality. Clark's transformative effect on viewership, merchandise sales, and new fans is by most metrics unparalleled. To suggest Bueckers has surpassed her in overall impact, particularly culturally, is a claim that simply doesn't hold up for many, making the snub feel even more illogical and agenda-driven. It's a battle of the titans, with one clearly dominating the popular vote. Despite hoping Clark can turn this thing around and be hotter than ever, some commentators insist that for now, the overwhelming hype is clearly gone for whatever reason. This stark declaration is a difficult pill for many fans, but it's presented as an honest, brutal assessment of the current landscape. The Forbes snub in this context becomes not just an isolated incident, but a symptom of a larger unsettling trend. This perspective forces a confrontational look at the fleeting nature of celebrity and the brutal realities of maintaining peak cultural relevance in an ever-changing media environment. It's a harsh awakening for a fan base accustomed to constant, unprecedented growth. The discussion around the volatility of hype extends to the fickle nature of online engagement. Industry observers draw parallels to the YouTube algorithm, warning against artificial inflation of views or subscribers, implying that true, organic growth is paramount for sustained influence. This subtly ties back to the hype-dying narrative, suggesting that if Clark's popularity were truly organic, such a high-profile snub would be unfathomable. It's a veiled but significant dig at the authenticity of perceived influence, hinting that only genuine, sustained impact will stand the test of time, and anything less will be exposed by shifting trends and media scrutiny. The internet's brutal honesty often mirrors real-world sentiment. For countless fans, the Forbes snub isn't just an administrative oversight, it feels like a profound betrayal of the cultural moment Clark created. They invested emotionally and passionately in her journey, watching her elevate women's basketball to unprecedented heights. To see her seemingly dismissed by a publication that claims to identify influence and impact is a powerful slap in the face. This isn't merely about a list, it's about a wider validation of her transformative power, and when that validation is withheld, it creates deep injustice and righteous anger. The expectation was that her influence was undeniable, but Forbes just publicly challenged that assumption, leaving her loyal base reeling. It's a clear misjudgment of public mood. The lingering critical question remains, what was Forbes' ultimate intent? Was this a genuine, albeit controversial, assessment of impact? Or was it a deliberate provocation, meticulously designed to generate discussion and potentially shape the future narrative of women's basketball, perhaps by subtly promoting new faces? If the goal was to get people talking, they certainly succeeded, but at what cost to their credibility among Clark's massive fan base? This controversy isn't fading, it's intensifying, forcing a deeper examination into the power dynamics of media recognition and how narratives can be manipulated. The ripples of this decision will undoubtedly shape discussions for months, challenging perceptions of who truly holds influence. It sets a dangerous precedent. So, as the dust settles on this bombshell revelation, one thing is undeniably clear. Caitlin Clark's exclusion from the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, while Paige Bueckers was celebrated, is more than just a list entry. It's a seismic event, rocking women's basketball and the broader sports media landscape. Whether it's a sign of shifting hype, a deliberate attempt to reshape narratives, or an inexplicable oversight, it forces us to confront the complex interplay of talent, popularity, and influence. Will this profound snub fuel Clark's fire and silence the doubters, or does it signal a challenging new chapter for the game's biggest star? The outrage is palpable, the questions are countless, and the sporting world watches to see what comes next. The future of influence hangs precariously in the balance. The shocking news hit like a lightning bolt through the sports world. Caitlin Clark, the undeniable face of women's basketball, was inexplicably left off the prestigious Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Her name, synonymous with record-breaking viewership and cultural impact, was nowhere to be found among the nation's most influential young talents. This wasn't just an oversight, it was a bombshell, sparking immediate outrage and confusion. How could such a colossal figure be so dramatically snubbed? The silence surrounding her omission spoke volumes, a deafening declaration that something was fundamentally amiss, setting the stage for unprecedented controversy. But the controversy deepened when Paige Bueckers, a familiar name to basketball fans, prominently featured on the list. The Yukon star secured her spot on Forbes' esteemed lineup, drawing a stark, almost painful contrast to Clark's absence. This direct comparison immediately fueled speculation, had Bueckers, in a sense, stepped into a void Clark's rejection created. The optics were undeniable, igniting a fiery debate. Was Forbes intentionally trying to shift the narrative, or was this a cruel twist of fate? The implications were immense, creating an unavoidable juxtaposition. Adding another layer to this perplexing scenario, Aaliyah Boston, Clark's Indiana Fever teammate, did make the cut, securing her place on the coveted Forbes list alongside Bueckers. Boston's inclusion, while merited, still raised eyebrows given Clark's astonishing impact as the Fever's centerpiece. Critics questioned the rationale. Was Boston's inclusion purely on her own merits, or was there an element of Forbes attempting to acknowledge the Fever's rising profile, perhaps indirectly, without granting Clark the individual recognition many felt she deserved? The optics of a teammate making a list that snubbed the team's biggest draw were unavoidable. The immediate, visceral reaction from many corners of the sports community was stark. This Forbes snub could only mean one thing: the unprecedented Caitlin Clark hype was, alarmingly, beginning to die down. For months, she had dominated headlines, shattered viewership records, and brought millions of new fans to women's basketball. To see her omitted from a list recognizing young influencers felt like an undeniable signal, a chilling indicator that the initial fervor might be cooling. This interpretation sent shockwaves through her fan base, who had become accustomed to her constant presence at the pinnacle of sports popularity, leaving them questioning what this rejection signified. This wasn't just an accidental omission, according to some prominent voices. It was a deliberate act of replacement. The narrative quickly formed that Forbes had actively sought to replace Caitlin Clark with Paige Bueckers, a bold and provocative claim that positioned the publication's decision as a calculated move rather than a mere oversight. This theory suggested a strategic attempt to diversify the spotlight, or perhaps even subtly redirect attention away from the player who had become almost too big for the room. Such a strong assertion painted a picture of Forbes deliberately reshaping the conversation around young athletic influence, fueling further speculation about their true intentions. The sheer incongruity of Clark's exclusion became a central point of contention. Just last year, she was named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year and lauded as one of the most influential women in sports, indicators of her profound and undeniable impact. How could someone with such a towering public profile, who had achieved so much at such a young age, be deemed unworthy of a spot on a list designed to celebrate exactly those qualities? This dramatic shift from universal celebration to conspicuous absence felt like an affront, creating a paradox that baffled experts and enraged fans. Many questioned the very criteria Forbes used for their 30 under 30 selections, wondering how they could overlook a phenomenon like Clark while including others whose cultural footprint, while significant, simply didn't compare in terms of mass appeal or revolutionary impact. This scrutiny wasn't to diminish the achievements of those who made the list, but rather to highlight what seemed like a glaring blind spot in Forbes' evaluation process. If the list aims to identify significant impact, Clark's absence rendered its credibility questionable, prompting a deeper dive into the subjective nature of such rankings and potential biases. Commentators vehemently asserted that Caitlin Clark's name should have been on that list without a shadow of a doubt. The speaker even argued she could have replaced other deserving athletes like Melissa Smith, not out of disrespect for their talent, but purely based on Clark's unparalleled mainstream visibility and her role in driving unprecedented engagement for the sport. This conviction underscored the snub's perceived injustice, arguing Clark's omission wasn't just surprising but deeply flawed, denying recognition to the player who brought millions of new eyes to women's basketball, making her exclusion indefensible. The inclusion of Aaliyah Boston, Clark's teammate, was particularly contentious. While acknowledging Boston's individual talent and accomplishments, the argument was made that her presence on the Forbes list largely stemmed from her association with Clark and the subsequent rise in the Indiana Fever's national prominence. This perspective, though harsh, highlighted the extraordinary gravitational pull Clark exerts, suggesting that even her teammates benefit from the amplified attention she brings to their team. It raised the uncomfortable question of whether individual merit or team association truly drove selections, fueling the narrative that Clark's impact was subtly redirected. When it came to a direct comparison between Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark, the speaker was unequivocal. While respecting Bueckers' skill and character, her popularity and impact on the game, especially the culture, simply do not touch Caitlin, even with a 12-foot pole. This blunt assessment underscored the unique, almost incomparable level of influence Clark has achieved. For Forbes to elevate Bueckers over Clark in a 30 under 30 selection struck many as a profound misreading, ignoring the player who fundamentally altered the sports cultural conversation, making the decision baffling. This perceived oversight was quickly interpreted as a deliberate affront, a big hue from Forbes directed squarely at Caitlin Clark. The idea wasn't disinterest, but perhaps an attempt to control who defines influence in the evolving sports narrative. This framing suggested a power play where Forbes deliberately replaced a cultural titan with others, perhaps to demonstrate their authority in shaping public perception. Such a bold move, if intentional, would signify a startling disregard for the player, embodying barrier breaking and drawing new audiences. Further substantiating the claim that Clark's hype might be dwindling, the speaker pointed to personal data, a loss of over 109 subscribers last month alone. While acknowledging this is anecdotal, it was presented as a tangible sign that the astronomical interest surrounding Clark could be experiencing a downturn, a harsh reality check against the narrative of ever-increasing momentum. This personal revelation lent a raw, unfiltered perspective to the discussion, suggesting that what feels like an undeniable truth on the ground, a palpable shift in audience engagement, is now manifesting in wider public recognition, or lack thereof, by influential entities like Forbes. The speaker drew a stark comparison to other channels, asserting that any content creator experiencing massive subscriber growth, like 2,300 subscribers today, is likely engaged in buying views or buying subscribers. This bold accusation highlighted a darker underbelly of online content creation, contrasting genuine engagement with artificial inflation. It also subtly implied that if Clark's own organic hype was indeed diminishing, it stood in stark contrast to what many might perceive as manufactured success elsewhere. This pointed observation underscored the speaker's commitment to authentic growth, even if it meant confronting uncomfortable truths about audience trends and market manipulation. A grave warning accompanied the discussion of fake engagement. YouTube does not pay for fake engagement. The speaker emphasized the severe consequences, including channel bans and permanent IP address blocks, for those who attempt to game the system. This cautionary tale was woven into the narrative as a stark reminder of the integrity or lack thereof in online metrics, reinforcing the idea that genuine interest, like that initially generated by Clark, is paramount. The explicit mention of other channels allegedly engaging in such practices served as a direct indictment, highlighting the high stakes involved in maintaining authentic audience numbers in the competitive digital landscape. Despite the current perceived dip in momentum in the Forbes snub, a resilient optimism about Clark's future still prevailed. The speaker expressed unwavering faith that Caitlin Clark possesses the ability to turn this thing around, predicting she could enter the 2026 season being hotter than ever, ready to ball out like fish grease. This powerful belief underscored the deep-seated hope that her talent and competitive spirit would ultimately overcome any temporary setbacks or perceived slights, reaffirming her immense potential. It served as a hopeful counter-narrative, suggesting that even in the face of rejection, true greatness reasserts itself, blazing even brighter. However, this optimism was tempered with an urgent plea for honesty. It's time to stop basically lying to yourself and saying that the hype is still there. The speaker insisted on a candid assessment, stating unequivocally, "It's not, guys. It's just." This stark reality check aimed to cut through any lingering denial, urging fans and commentators alike to acknowledge the observable shifts in engagement and public perception. To pretend otherwise, he argued, was to ignore the clear signs, including the Forbes snub, which collectively paint a picture of a phenomenon that, while still significant, is no longer reaching its previous stratospheric heights, at least for the moment. The moment the news broke about Clark's Forbes exclusion, it immediately became a seismic event across the content creation landscape. The speaker confidently predicted that everybody's gonna be talking about it, and everybody's gonna copy the content, which proved to be incredibly accurate. This foresight highlighted the undeniable news value of Clark's story, even in her absence from the list, underscoring her continued ability to drive conversation. Her snub became a story in itself, a testament to her enduring relevance and the magnetic pull she continues to exert, ensuring that even rejection only amplified her presence in the digital discourse. The revelation that Caitlin Clark did not even make the headlines for the Forbes 30 Under 30 list despite the massive buzz she generates was a further indignity. This secondary snub, the lack of even being considered newsworthy in her absence, surely fueled the furious reaction among her dedicated fan base. To be so conspicuously overlooked in both the selection and the immediate media coverage amplified the sense of disbelief and injustice. It was a clear message that, in this instance, Forbes chose to highlight other stars, seemingly downplaying Clark's omnipresence and unparalleled ability to capture public imagination, a move that did not go unnoticed. The decision from Forbes effectively acted as a calculated message, deliberately replacing Caitlin Clark with her own teammate, Aaliyah Boston, and rising star Paige Bueckers. It was a bold declaration from the publication, signaling a shift in their impact hierarchy, challenging Clark's seemingly unassailable position. This move wasn't just about who made the list, it was a powerful statement about who defines influence, who gets the spotlight, and how quickly narratives pivot in the fast-paced world of celebrity and sports. It left an indelible mark, forcing a reevaluation of Clark's current standing and the machinations behind such rankings. So, what does this unprecedented rejection truly signify for Caitlin Clark and the future of sports influence? Is it a temporary blip, a calculated challenge designed to spur her even further, or a genuine indicator that the hyper-intense spotlight is indeed shifting? This dramatic snub by Forbes, placing others like Paige Bueckers and Aaliyah Boston ahead, forces us to question the metrics of stardom and the sometimes harsh realities of maintaining unprecedented height. The basketball world now watches with bated breath, eager to see how Clark and the narrative around her responds to this undeniable and frankly furious-making blow.